Assalamu alaikum, everyone. So, welcome to the third lecture of this week and the second part of vocabulary. In the last video, we have just discussed the importance of context cues and how understanding different types of context cues and utilizing them effectively can help you decipher the meaning of the unknown and the difficult word, and how the knowledge of root words and understanding about suffixes and prefixes can help you broaden your existing vocabulary. So I hope that those tips and techniques would have been of quite a great help for you people in understanding ways of enhancing your vocabulary. In this part two, I'll cover another aspect of vocabulary. So let's begin. All right. Now, it's a very common practice of using synonym in schools and colleges. When people are taught about synonyms, they are mostly given a list of words and are asked to provide their synonyms, the words which have somewhat identical meanings. So, what are synonyms? From that point in our life, we are aware that synonyms are basically different words which have somewhat similar or identical meaning. For instance, you can simply say an easy task or a simple task, or you can say Hong Kong is a large city or a metropolis city, because both imply the similar idea. So either you say a easy task or a simple task, it has somewhat same meaning. Or you say a large city or a metropolitan city, again it has somewhat similar meaning. So this is how we are taught to look at synonym and utilize synonym in our writing or throughout our language use. Um, so why do we mainly use synonym? What are we taught since the very beginning? That the primary purpose of using synonyms in our writing is to avoid repetition. And why do we need to avoid repetition? Because if we keep on using the same word in every line or in every paragraph or 4 to 5 times within the same write up or essay, then our writing would appear monotonous, similar, boring, right? So it would become very monotonous and the text would no more be interesting for the readers. So, in order to make a text or writing more interesting for the reader, it is recommended and it is needed that we use synonyms in our writing. We use words interchangeably, which do not alter the meaning and which also helps us express ourselves using a different vocabulary. Right. So look at this text and see the kind of feeling you have once you read this text. How does it sound? How does it appear to you as a reader or as a listener right now? So if I say, when I'm big, I'll buy a big house and a big car. Outside the big house, I'll plant many big trees and build a big pond in my garden. So, how do you feel when I read this in front of you? When you listen to this, or if I talk like this, or if you read a book and you find this paragraph, how do you feel? You feel like, the same word has been repeated and it feels very, you feel disinterested and you feel very monotonous and you feel that, the writer doesn't know how to express himself or herself. He or she has used the same word big where a lot of other words could have been used in this particular context. So if you say, instead of saying when I'm big, when I'm grown up, when I'm an adult, I'll buy a big house. Okay, fine. You can use big one. So you can say a huge house and a big car. And outside my house, you don't need to repeat big here. I'll plant giant trees, right? And build a huge pond or a large pond in my garden. So compare if you compare what I have just said to the task that I have read before, to the text that I have read before, you will find a huge difference, right? So when I have changed some of the words to writing, the conversation, seems normal, because as a person also, you don't keep on repeating the same words again and again, right? So basically, the use of synonyms help us avoid monotony and repetition in our writing, in our paragraph, and help helps make it more interesting for the readers, or helps our conversation appear more engaging for the listener. All right. We have the improved version as well. So when I'm old, instead of saying big, I'll buy a big house. Outside the huge house, I'll plant gigantic trees and build an enormous pond in my garden. So you see, we do not only have a variety of words here, but it even sounds better, right? So that is what the primary purpose of using synonym is. Now, let's do a small exercise to see if you're aware of synonyms. And what you need to do is that you need to rewrite the sentences by using appropriate synonyms for the words in bold. All right. All right. So let's begin. The guards made sure that the plane was secure. So I won't tell you the answer. You can find, you need to find, or you need to think about. With find, I do not mean that you need to Google. You need to think about what could be the other word that you could use instead of secure at the place of secure. Okay, first thing, then maybe I can tell later. The magician will confuse you with his tricks, right? So what else can you use here in this context? In this context, maybe there are other synonyms of confused, but they wouldn't be appropriate in this context. So what other word can you use here? All right. It is always nice to be courteous to others. So what else can we say instead of courteous? The abandoned house was empty. Empty. Now there are many words that could that the many synonyms to empty, but which word is more suitable in this context is something that you need to think about. All right. I have a faithful friend. So instead of faithful, what else can you say? The old woman was very frail. Now, the woman is old, so I hope that you understand the meaning of frail, right? How are old people normally, right? So I hope you try to first decipher the meaning. In case you have tried, but still you are not sure about the meaning, then you can check. But do not develop this habit of the moment you get confused or just randomly referring to Google or dictionary. Do not become totally dependent on internet or dictionaries. Instead, try to become independent users of English language. All right. If they bother you, just avoid them. So what else can you say instead of avoiding them? Right? Think about that. All right. So I hope that you people have looked at these words, and what you need to do is find some good synonyms for them. So instead of secure, you can simply say safe, right? So instead of saying the magician will confuse you with his or her trick, what else can you say? Right? So maybe bewilder you, right? Or trick you, but trick is there. So courteous, we all know that courteous means to be humble, to be kind, right? Now I won't reveal the meaning synonym for each and every one of them. Try to figure it out on your own and see if you can come up with relevant synonyms for each of these words. Now the question is that we know that there is a word, and if you just randomly write synonyms for large on Google, you'll find a list of synonyms. Or you write synonyms for beautiful, you'll again find a list of words with almost the similar meaning. But the point is, can each synonym and can synonyms be used interchangeably? So can you use large all the time in all the contexts, or it might not be suitable in a particular context, right? So this is something that we need to learn today in today's session, because whenever we were taught as a student about synonym, we were told that these are words having similar meaning, but we weren't taught If we could use each synonym, if each synonym is appropriate in every other context. For instance, small might be an appropriate word, but and it's tiny is a synonym of small, but it might not be appropriate in that context. So can we use synonym interchangeably? This is something that we need to explore. All right. So these are the synonyms. Uh, all of these words have somewhat similar meaning: stale, rotten, decayed, and rancid. So stop and find out the meaning of these words. Now, because there are no context clues here, you are allowed to Google it or use a dictionary right now. So stop and Google the meaning of each and every word, each four of these words, and write it on a page. Pause this video and write it on your own, the meaning. All right. And think if you can use all these four words interchangeably. Do it on your own before you move on to the next part of the video. Pause your video here because you need to do this activity on your own. All right. Once you have found the meanings of all the four synonyms provided previously, move on to the second group of synonyms: complex, intricate, tricky, and thorny. So I want you to pause this video again and Google the meaning of these four synonyms and write it on a paper in front of you or in your notebook. Once you are done with finding the meaning of the second group of synonym, move on to the third one: kill, murder, assassination. I believe you all know the meaning of kill and murder. Probably assassination could be a new word for you. But even if you know the meaning of kill and murder, there is a slight difference between the two of them. The two of them also have a certain different connotation, different implication. So you need to figure out the difference. So pause the video and find the meaning for the words kill, murder, and an assassination. Once you are done, I hope you are done by now. Please do not, I especially recommend, do not move on to the next slide or to pause, keep your video paused until and unless you have done this task on your own. Once you have written down or found the meaning of each of the synonyms in each group, think if you can use rotten in place of stale, if you can always use rancid in place of rotten, or if you can use intricate in the context where complex is used, or if you can use thorny and tricky interchangeably. Can you always use kill and murder interchangeably? For instance, if you say the man was killed and if you say the man was murdered, does it have the similar meaning or there is a difference? Or is the meaning different from when we say the man was assassinated? So what's the difference? Can you use all these three words in all the contexts? Or is it so that kill might be appropriate in a particular context, but assassinated might not be fit there, might not fit there? So this is something that you need to find, because now we are moving one step ahead of your previous understanding related to synonym. Now at this level of proficiency, you simply shouldn't know that, okay, synonyms are words having similar meaning. You need to enhance your existing understanding about synonym by understanding if synonyms can be used or cannot be used interchangeably. Once you have done this exercise, you can play the video and move on to the next part. All right. So now you all have found the meaning of these words. I'll discuss it with you again. So basically, stale refers to the foods that are no longer fresh. For instance, stale is very commonly used with bread. So if bread is no more fresh, we say it's a stale bread. Then we have yet another word, which is rotten. And rotten refers to produce like vegetable and fruits which are no more fresh, and which we cannot eat because they are not eatable anymore. So, for instance, we say rotten tomatoes, but can we say stale tomatoes? Probably not. Let's look at yet another meaning of another synonym in the same group, that is decayed and decomposed. Although I did not mention decomposed, but both of these synonyms, decayed and decomposed, refer to items that are partially rotten away. For instance, it's mostly used to refer to the carcass of animals. For instance, we say the body has begun to decay, or the fungus will decay soft timber, right? So it's it's somewhat it's similar to the process of decomposition, right? Partly things that are partly rotten away. Then we have rancid. Rancid basically refers to foods containing oil or fat smelled or tasting bad because of being stale or old. For example, rancid meat. Are you getting my point? Now, now the here is the point that I wanted to make. All these four words are synonym. If you Google synonyms of stale, you would probably find decayed, rancid, decomposed. So these are the synonyms of stale. Or if you Google the synonyms for rotten, you would again have stale, decayed, rancid, along with other list of words. The same is the case with decayed or rancid. So if you Google rancid, you will find stale, rotten, and decayed as the synonym of rancid. But the point is, can we use these words interchangeably? Of course not. So you can say a stale bread, but you cannot say a stale tomato, right? Instead of stale, for tomato, we will use the word rotten. So although stale and rotten are synonym, they cannot be used interchangeably. So if there is a word, if you're referring to rotten produce, you cannot use the word stale there. So you need, along with having the knowledge about synonyms of different words, you also need to have an understanding if you can use all the synonyms of a word in a particular context. Similarly, if you say the body has begun to decay, you cannot say the body has staled or the body has gotten rotten, right? So decayed is more appropriate in this context, right? You can say rancid meat, but you cannot say stale meat. Are you getting my point? So this understanding is very important, that although synonyms do have somewhat similar meaning, they're somewhat similar in meaning, they cannot always be used interchangeably. All right. And rancid and putrid or putrid are used when there is a terrible smell. So simply, if you use the word stale, the purpose wouldn't meet, right? You wouldn't be able to achieve your purpose because they have a link with a terrible smell. All right. Now let's look at the second group of synonyms that I have assigned you. That is complex, intricate, tricky, and thorny. So what do we actually imply when we use the word complex? Complex basically consists of many different or connected parts. For instance, we say a complex body structure. So the body is basically made of different and connected parts. This is the reason we say a complex body structure. Then we have intricate. Intricate implies that something has very complex and interrelated parts, and it is often impossible or difficult to separate and solve those interrelated parts. For instance, police officers uncovered an intricate web of deceit. So there was the whole web of deceit, which was very intricate, and police officers were able to uncover that intricate web of deceit. But you cannot say a complex web of deceit, because complex does not work in this context. Then we have tricky. Now, with trick, there is an association of a certain skill or knack, which means the ability, innate ability, or passion for doing something. So, trick involves some sort of skill. For instance, it's tricky to learn to ride a skateboard. You can, although say that riding a skateboard is complex, even if you use that, it doesn't have the same implication, and it does not convey the same meaning, or has the same connotation, right? Or it's tricky applying an eyeliner. So you cannot say it's complex applying an eyeliner. It wouldn't fit into this context. Although, if you Google the synonym for tricky, you will find complex as one of the very commonly used synonym. But you cannot use complex in this context. So even if you use it, it doesn't sound right. Right? The teacher tied me up in knots by asking tricky questions. So tricky questions is more appropriate as compared to intricate question. In fact, you cannot say intricate question. You can say to some extent complex questions, but intricate question doesn't suit at all. And tricky question is most appropriate among the three of them. So you see, even though they are synonym, they are used in a particular context. Then we have the word thorny. So a thorny problem or subject is often difficult to deal with. Why? Because it is full of controversial points. So it is essential that we tackle this thorny problem, the thorny issue of taxation, the thorny policy of immigration policy issue of immigration policy. So here, thorny is only appropriate. So you cannot say it is essential that we tackle the tricky problem of taxation, because taxation problem is not tricky, but it's more appropriate to say thorny. Or instead of saying intricate, again, intricate doesn't imply the same meaning. It doesn't have the same implication. So you see, all four of these are synonym. They have somewhat similar meaning, but then they carry a different connotation. And this is the reason that synonyms are not always used interchangeably. So although big and large are synonyms, but maybe there are contexts in which big is appropriate, but large is not, or vice versa. So you need to be aware of the context in which a particular word is used so that you use language effectively. Then we have an interesting one. I believe this is comparatively interesting for a lot of people, for a lot of people, because we keep on coming across these words. And we watch a lot of movies, crime movies. So let's figure out the difference. Kill. So basically, we use the word kill when we are talking about the cause of a death of a person. And when we say someone is killed, it can either be intentional और अनइंटेंशनल. इंटेंशनल यानी कि या तो वो जानबूझ के प्लान करके भी हो सकता है, और अनइंटेंशनल यानी गलती से भी हो सकता है. सो शी वाज किल्ड इन अ रोड एक्सीडेंट. नाउ हियर, killing can also be unintentional. Maybe somebody, the person who killed him or her, did not intend to do so. They did not plan to do so. It was by mistake. So it was unintentional. He killed the spider in the bathroom. Now, obviously, killing spider, you cannot say murder spider, because he killed it, and this does not have that connotation which murder has. Or the woman was killed in hit and run accident. So it was a hit and run accident, but probably it wasn't a planned murder. So we use kill when we are talking about the cause of someone's death, which could either be intentional or unintentional. But when we say murder, we are talking about the intentional cause of death of another person. So always remember that murder is always intentional in nature. It's always planned, and the murderer always has an intention to do so. So a murderer can never say, I murdered by mistake. No. If he or she is a suspect, They can say he was the victim was killed by mistake, but we cannot say that I murdered by mistake, because murder is always intentional. The police think that she murdered her husband. So murder has a very serious connotation. This is something that someone plans and then execute that plan for the sake of taking somebody's life. Or he said he will murder me if I do not give him the money. So simply announcing that, whenever say, okay, I'm going to murder you, this has an intention of doing so. This can never be unintentional, right? So this is the context in which murder is used. Now these two words are very different from the third word, which is sometimes considered as a synonym, but it has a very different connotation. So when we say assassination, refers to the murder of an important or an influential person, like a politician or a political activist, either for the political or the religious reasons. So you cannot simply say a man in my neighbor was assassinated if that man is a common person and he is not a political figure or a famous figure or a religious figure, right? So you can't say that for a common person. You can't say my friend was assassinated if your friend is a common person. But if the person is famous or a political activist, then you use the word assassination. For instance, there are plans to assassinate the president. Now you don't say there are plans to murder the president, because president is a big figure. He's an influential figure. So when there is a murder or planned against an influential figure, we use the word assassination. For instance, John F. Kennedy was assassinated in Texas. So he was the president of America and he was assassinated. Because he's an influential figure, we use the word assassinated. So he was assassinated in Texas after he was shot twice. Are you getting my point? So this is the difference between the words which within a dictionary appear as synonym, but they cannot be used interchangeably. So you do not only have to be aware of synonym of words, but also the context in which these words are used interchangeably. These words are used so that you know if you can use one word in the place of another or not. All right. Now, can the following words be used interchangeably? Now, I am not going to do it for you. I am not going to discuss the answers in this video. What you have to do is that there are again four groups of synonyms here. The first group consists of words fly, hover, soar, and glide. So again, you need to Google the meaning of these words, and on your own, you need to think if you can use hover in place of fly, or if you can use glide in place of soar. What makes the meaning of these four words different in essence, and if they can be used interchangeably or not. The second group of synonyms consists of creep, drag, crawl, and toddle. Then we have the third group of synonyms, which consists of the words gaze, glance, stare, and look. Then we have the last but not the least group, which consists of myth, epic, anecdote, and chronicle. So you need to Google the meaning of each of these and see how do they differ from each other despite being used as synonyms, and if they can be used interchangeably or not. All right. Once you have done that, then we are moving on to antonymy. Now, I know that you all are familiar that antonyms are basically words carrying opposite meanings, but then there are some degrees of antonymy that I want you to understand. So let's begin. Basically, synonym and antonyms are called a sense relationship. So antonymy is a sense relationship that exists between words which are opposite in meaning. All right. Antonymy is a binary relationship between terms with complementary meanings. According to Edward Finnegan, some words can be changed into antonyms simply by adding a prefix or suffix. For instance, important, and you can change it into its synonym, its antonym, simply by adding this prefix un, and it becomes opposite in meaning. So, for instance, unimportant or adding dis to advantage makes it an antonym of advantage, disadvantage. Then we have irrelevant. So, you understand why did I mention you about having the understanding of prefix and suffix, so that you can form antonyms by adding appropriate prefix or suffix. So if you don't know that un is added with important to make it unimportant, and instead you use ir, that's incorrect prefix. So you need to have a clear understanding of which prefix is added to which word for making for making the opposite of that word. So you need to have that understanding. All right. Now there are some categories in which we can categorize, in which we can divide antonyms. So they are basically, they can be categorized into the following categories: graded antonyms, then we have complementary antonyms, and then we have relational antonyms. So although you are familiar of what do we mean by antonyms, you need to know the different categories that to which these antonyms belong to. So, what are gradable antonyms? Gradable antonyms basically deals with the levels of the meanings of words. For instance, if something is not good, it may still not be bad, right? So maybe something is not good, but that doesn't mean that it's bad. So there are categories: good, bad, worse. There are categories. Some such words have different level. For instance, average, good, excellent, bad. So there are few antonyms that can be graded, that can be put into different categories. Then we have complementary antonyms. They have a relationship where there is no middle ground. So it could be either one or another. So there is no middle ground. Are you getting my point? For instance, there are only two possibilities, either one or another. For instance, if you say alive or dead, there are only two possibilities: either a person is alive or dead. So these antonyms can be put into the category of complementary antonyms. So you only need to have this understanding. All right. Then we have relational antonym. There has to be a relationship between the two meanings, where the two meanings are opposite only when the context of the relationship where both must exist, right? So an opposite of something can only exist when there is a relationship, when there is an opposite of that word. For instance, doctor and patient. So I can only be a doctor if I have patient, right? Or I can be a patient only when there is a doctor, right? Or mother or son. So a person can be a mother only when she has a son or a daughter. So these are relational antonyms, right? So these are the different types of antonyms that we have. Now I told you about adding prefix and using and after give as many antonyms. First task is that make a list of at least 15 antonyms made after adding up a prefix. For instance, advantage, disadvantage, important, unimportant, relevant, irrelevant, engage, disengage, or engaging, disengaging. Then we have likable, unlikable, or unlikely, likely or unlikely. So words like these. So there are many antonyms that are that are changed into opposite meaning after adding prefix. So you have to create a list of at least 15 antonyms that have that have become antonyms after adding a prefix. So make a column for write important, and the antonym would be unimportant. Advantage, the antonym would be disadvantage, right? Encourage, discourage, right? So this is the first task that you need to do for your self practice. And then the second task is that you need to give as many antonym as possible for the following words. Good. There are many antonyms for good. Please do not Google. Try to come up with antonyms on your own and then make a list of antonyms for good. Once you think that you have tried your best, then you can Google to see how many have you identified. Similarly, try to find antonyms for unattractive. So one is attractive, obviously. Then there are many other words or antonyms that could be used. So you need to find out, see how many can you come up with. Then the same is the case with sad. So try to find out as many antonyms of sad as possible. Okay, now the next task is that you are supposed to read the paragraph that is given below, and what you need to do is that you are supposed to replace the words that have been written in bold by using the antonyms of those words. All right. So on a sunny day in May, a parent went to the park. She put the blanket on the dry grass. The ground felt hard. A man was selling cheap lemonade nearby. She decided to buy one and hope that the man would accept the money. There were few people in the park and it was really quiet. After walking around a while, she went back to her blanket. It was time for her to leave the empty park. Now, there are some words which have been bold, which have been written in bold, and you have to rewrite the complete paragraph. But instead of the words that are in bold, you have to write their antonyms, and then you're going to see how the meaning of the entire paragraph has changed, because the meaning will be opposite for each and every word that is there in bold. So you need to pause the video here, and then you need to complete this exercise on your own. Please do not move on to the next part until and unless you are done with this part. So pause the video and try to do the next part. Try to do this exercise on your own. All right. So once you are done, then we can see. All right. Okay, so I haven't actually written the answer for you, but let's have a discussion. On a sunny day, maybe on a rainy day, you can say. In May, a parent went to the park, or maybe a child went to the park instead of parent. She put the blanket, you see, parent and child, or parent or son, you can simply write. So these are relational antonyms. Or on a sunny day, or instead of sunny, you can say on a rainy day. She put the blanket on the dry grass instead of dry, wet. The ground felt hard. So instead of hard, you can use any other word. Instead of cheap, we all know the antonym of cheap, so you can use that. Okay, you can continue it on your own. Then we have context cues as antonyms. What you are supposed to do is that give the meaning of the words in bold with the help of the antonym cues that have been provided to you. For instance, although Tom was anxious about the test, Tina was not worried at all. So what do you think anxious mean? Now, antonym cues are there in the very text, because although represents that this part has one meaning and the independent clause tells you the opposite meaning. So by looking at the opposite part of the sentence, you can easily decipher the meaning for the word anxious. Then we have the second sentence. If you do not conquer your fears, they will beat you. If you do not conquer your fears, they will beat you. So now you need to find the meaning of conquer with the help of the context cue that has been provided. Right? They will beat you. Look at the opposite part. Two new girls started school this week. Sarah has a gregarious personality while Lisa is rather quiet. So the word here while shows that the other part of the sentence is opposite to gregarious. So when we say Lisa is rather quiet, probably the word gregarious has an meaning that is opposite to quiet. So what could gregarious mean? Now maybe you can decipher or figure out the meaning of this difficult unknown word. Then we have this sentence number 4. While Sam was careful not to be seen as she peeked out the window, Phil was not as cautious as and was seen, right? So this shows that Sam was careful while Phil was not cautious. So what do you think cautious mean? You can easily decipher the meaning by looking at the dependent clause in the sentence. Although the princess is familiar to those in London, she is unknown to the rest of the world. Now, although the princess is familiar to those in London, this is a dependent clause, and although shows that the next clause will be in opposite to will have somewhat opposite sense to this clause. She is unknown to the rest of the world. World. So, by looking at the antonym Q, you can easily find out the meaning of familiar. Then we have the sentence, although Mary was willing to play in the snow, John was reluctant to do so. So, Mary was willing, which means reluctant has a meaning that is opposite to willing. All right. I have given you enough hint, and it probably wouldn't be difficult for you to decipher the meaning of the words in bold. So I hope that by the end of this lecture, you have a clearer understanding of what do we actually mean by synonyms and antonyms, how synonyms have similar meaning, still they have a different connotation and they cannot be used interchangeably in every context, and how antonyms have different types, and how antonyms can there are many antonyms that are simply formed by adding a prefix. So how adding the knowledge, having a knowledge of prefixes can help you come up with a list of antonyms, different antonyms, and then how you can find meanings of words with the help of antonym cues. So I hope the two lectures on vocabulary have helped you looked at vocabulary from a different perspective and will help you improve your vocabulary in the long run. So thank you. See you in the next video, in which I will have a detailed revision of whatever we have covered in the entire semester, from the beginning of the semester till the end. And I'll try to discuss a sample review if we have time. And if not, then I'll upload that sample review for your reference. So see you in the next video. Thank you.